A warm welcome to the ClimaTalk community. I'm Leonie, a member of the COP26 team, and today I'm going to talk to Bianca Pitt, the co-founder of She Changes Climate, about women in international climate policy. Hi Bianca, nice to have you here.
Hi Leonie, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to speak here and to answer some of the questions you've had on She Changes Climate, which is a campaign that we're extremely excited about.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you today because in 2020 you co-founded She Changes Climate together with Antoinette Vermelia and Elise Buckle, and your aim is to bring diversity and inclusiveness, transparency and accountability to the COP negotiations on climate change, so an international climate change forum or conference, let's say. And my first question that comes up here is, tell me, do we need more women in international climate policy and specifically at COPs?
Yeah, the question that I can then ask generally is, do we want to see more action on climate? I think we've all come to realize that despite knowing for about 50 years what we're heading towards and what is really on the cards, we haven't seen the action. We haven't seen the climate policy, and we have not seen climate policy implementation the way we need to see it. And so when we realize that, of course, when we in general realize that, the first question has to be, why is that? What is holding up progress on the climate front? What is holding us up from building a more sustainable future? And looking at leadership structures as we have them today, when seeing that 51% of the planet's population are women, and then looking at leadership structures in politics, in government and business, we see that that percentage is not reflected in leadership. So what is missing and what is holding us up from making the progress we need to make? It's the lack of women in leadership.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. And maybe to underline this argument, what kind of advantages would it have to include more women in climate action, and how does it change the policy created, or would it change?
Yeah, so if you think of it, currently our policy is created by only about 49% of the planet's population, and actually within that it's a much smaller minority, again, because we are not reflecting the global ethnic majority in our decision making. As we know, generally sort of the Western agenda has really dominated world politics. What can we bring? Now, what we see in the research is that if you bring women into leadership, you see a whole other style of leadership emerging, which is more collaborative, more empathetic, generally more caring, and quite possibly also more passionate. I think that when looking at research, when you see that, for example, female parliamentarians translate into more where you have more women in parliament, you see countries have better climate policy and better policy implementation. And preliminary research on boards show that the same is true for boardrooms and companies. So where you have more women on boards, we see companies adopt better climate policy and take more action on climate as well, and have lower emissions. We can see quite quickly how women can really change not only the decision making, that diversity that they bring in changes simply the way, you look at how decisions can be made, and also you take decisions that that possibly also take sort of greater account of the overall outcome, rather than perhaps just benefit those at the very top.
Do you have any practical example where this is already implemented?
Well, there's some research looking at the B team, for example. B team, we mean business, and there we and Oliver Wyman is conducting some research on this, which they are going to present at COP 26 in November, and that has shown where that direct link. So where there are more women on boards, they see the data shows that you've had better climate policy and more policy implementation, if you want.
Okay, exciting. I'm excited to read about that in the future.
Yeah.
But let's come back a little bit to She Changes Climate, because you have a mission. Tell us a bit more about what is She Changes Climate, what you're doing, and what do you want to achieve, and what is your role?
Yeah, so I normally work on environmental matters. I'm on various boards of charities, including Client Earth, the Environmental Funders Network, which is the umbrella organization for environmental philanthropists, charities and foundations in the UK. I sit on the board of the Sustainable Angle and Action for Conservation. And I also am a funder to the sector, so I put my own money into supporting charities and projects. My husband and I endowed the first chair for environmental sustainability at INSEAD, one of the leading business schools. And generally, I was sort of looking at what was happening globally, who was doing what around the world, and connecting people to each other to try and speed up progress on the climate front. And it was only last August, actually last September, that one of the women of a network that I had set up many years ago to connect women working in the environmental space pointed out that the UK COP26 leadership team was an all-male team, that we thought, well, wait a minute, given that I've seen so many women do terrific things, be such amazing climate leaders around the world, how can it be that when the UK, as the host country for the COP26, determines its own team, they can't find any women to join it? You see, there seemed to be a clear lack of the fact that we need that diversity, a sort of lack of understanding, I would say, that we need that diversity to make the right decisions now for this last decade during which we can take action. And my role in it, so we then co-founded She Changes Climate, which was just going to be a campaign to point out to government that they needed to bring in women into this leadership team, which we did in support, being supported by 400 climate leaders around the world, female climate leaders, and some other people who wanted to really put their name behind this, like Emma Watson and Ellie Goulding, who all care for the environment as well. And we thought that the government would just say, oh my goodness, you're so right, thank you so much, and let's amend the team. But that actually then didn't happen. So we had to carry on. And I think at the rate we're going to do our work all the way up to COP, which is quite exciting because it actually gives us an opportunity to really highlight the importance of women in international climate negotiations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read about this open letter that you wrote to the UK government. Now you already said it. There wasn't really a reaction to it. Can you recall a little bit the main claims that you made in the government, apart from that there's only men in the delegation?
Well, we said that, what we are saying is the COP cannot be successful, and we need it to be a success. We all need it to be a success. Climate scientists are warning us that if we don't put in immediate action now over the next 9 years, and it's really, I think, the next 2 to 3 years, that we have to see this action. I think we can't leave it for another 9 years either. They warn us that we will come to a point of climate chaos. That means irreversible, absolutely irreversible environmental damage. I mean, what we're seeing is a destruction of our ecosystems. And what are ecosystems? Ecosystems is simply the biggest infrastructure this planet has. It is the underlying infrastructure which is serving all of us, as we know. And so what we need to do now is we need to take action. And we will, as we've seen again and again, existing leadership has always not taking the action that we need to take. I mean, again, at the G7, we found that really disappointing, to see the lack of action there on climate. And why is that? Because we are asking the architects of the old systems essentially here to change the systems. And I understand it's very difficult for them to now, destroy something or amend something, which actually works perfectly well for them, maybe not for others. So that is why we're calling for these new architects to come in, people who have traditionally been excluded from leadership, although they should have been in leadership all along.
Talking about the old architects of the system, I've seen that you had over 400 signatories from women from all spheres. Did you also have any men signing the document?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So we did get approached by and had many conversations with our wonderful partners and co-conspirators who, of course, are men as well. We've had men helping us on the comms run, for example, giving their time pro bono to work on the messaging for this. My own husband was kind enough to read letters that I drafted. And of course, men are absolutely vital in this process. We didn't ask them to sign this letter because we thought that this should be a women-led and women-executed effort. But as Sheryl Sandberg so helpfully said, women need to lean in. And what we say is, and men need to reach out. So to bring women into leadership, men have to actively reach out today. What we want to see at the top are 50-50 men and women together. And for that, we just need, not, I'd say the help, but just the initiative of men as well.
Absolutely, I'm with you there. Talking about the new architects of the system and the diversity you mentioned, I wonder, what do you do to advocate also for maybe non-privileged women, for example, indigenous women, disabled women, women of color in particular?
Yeah, so it's a very good question, very important. Obviously, we need women in all their diversity. So it's absolutely critical that in all the countries around the world, women are brought into leadership. And what we would like the UK team to do as the host country is to call on all delegations to be 50-50 balanced as well, to have that 50-50 vision so that we can achieve 100% results.
Can you think of any country example maybe where you see that some changes are already happening? I'm thinking of maybe the Nordic countries, for example, because they have a very high degree on gender equality. Do you know any team that is maybe better than the UK team?
What we're going to do is we're going to run an analysis. I think quite a few teams or a few countries have not announced their teams yet. What we do know, but we are going to run an analysis, of course. What we do know is that in the 2019 conference, we only had 20% teams being led by women, only 20%. So that's a fifth, and that is just not enough. Given that the world has this sort of 50-50, ratio of men and women, if this was a true representation of the people, and this, don't forget, this is the conference of the parties, which should be a true representation of the people on this planet, that would be reflected in the leadership teams as well. And given that that is not the case, we have to ask, why is that not the case? What is stopping? What is sort of repressing, the women to come and lead these teams? Why are they not seen to be leading these teams? And thinking, if you think about climate leaders around the world, if I ask someone, name a climate leader, so often, names of women come up. Greta Thunberg, Christiana Figueres, they all obviously some of the leading voices. The youth movement is so led by young women. Yeah, it's absolutely impressive. Yeah, and we need to see that also, these women also in senior negotiating roles. So whilst the UK government says that they have 45% of women in senior management, if you take a closer look, you find that actually at the top, the leadership team are mainly men, and then the deputies are the women. And that is something that has to change now. We can't always think of women as the deputies, you know. Of course, we need women to co-lead this effort.
Talking about leading women, ClimaTalk is also led by a woman, just mentioning that here.
Yeah.
But some people would argue that women are already in the helm of climate negotiations. So, for example, both the current UNFCCC executive secretary, Patricia Espinosa, and her predecessor, Christiana Figueres, who kind of spearheaded the Paris Agreement, are women. So what would you say to someone that believes that because of this, women are already well represented at COP?
Yeah, it's not enough to have 1 or 2 women at the top. You know, we need to, what the research shows is that women, unless they are, and that's a really interesting number I've heard yesterday from new research that's come out. Even if you have 50-50 women in the room, so it's 50% women, 50% men, women will still not get the speaking time that they should get. So apparently we should have 80% of women in the room for women to actually speak up. So in a group, naturally, men would dominate the conversation. What happens if an international organization such as the UNFCCC is led by a woman? You know, that's a fantastic start, obviously, you know, and really helpful. And I know Patricia Espinosa has spoken out so many times and is a wonderful climate leader. If you look underneath her, you know, what is underneath her in that structure, again, you see there are a lot of men. And what we are calling for is really that 50-50. Ideally co-leadership between men and women from the very top, you know, so if you had a chairman, that could be a woman and the CEO could be a man, for example, or vice versa. In government, we want to see that as well. Delegations, so the delegations coming to COP need to be gender balanced, and there should be a clear call for gender balanced for these balanced delegations, which we are not seeing at the moment yet. So what I'm saying is 1 woman alone is not enough in the room. You know, we need many, many more.
Absolutely. What does She Changes Climate do apart from advocating for these numbers, for the 50-50 parity, to maybe empower women to get into climate negotiations, climate policy?
So if you look on our website, we are working with a whole range of fantastic organizations. We Can, the Women's Earth Alliance, who have been women in sustainability, who have been bringing women together and have been highlighting the amazing work of women all over the world as climate champions, you know, and what we say, champions of solutions. So what we want to invite everyone who is interested in this is to also look at these organizations. You can have a look at our website, which lists partnership organizations, and to reach out to those and become involved, because we really need everybody now to be working on this.
True, visibility can help a lot. I think. What are the next steps for She Changes Climate? So what can we expect to happen in the near future and until COP maybe?
Yeah, so we're totally focused on COP all the way up to November. We are going to put pressure on governments, you know, all the way up to November. What we want to see is we want to see the 50-50 vision firmly embedded into people's thinking. And we want to then be able to ask at COP if the teams weren't 50-50 balanced, you know, how they will be held accountable for that, and how they can justify not having that gender balance at the very top.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
What is your personal advice to young women or women in general that want to engage or want to work in international climate policy?
I would say to reach out to these organizations that I mentioned earlier, and to get in touch with them and to become involved. I was a layperson, you know, I had a career in business, in law, media and corporate finance before I decided to do something about climate. And I just used my expertise really to influence, to drive, to connect people with each other. And I think that is really what everyone should be doing right now, taking their expertise, whatever it is, and using their networks to just bring the message home and to initiate climate action, both on a personal level, but also in a professional capacity.
Thank you for that, Bianca. I hope that reaches all the women out there, and people will also reach out to you. So my last question today would be, so if someone now listening to us maybe is inspired and would like to join or support She Changes Climate, what does this person have to do?
Please write to us. Just get in touch with our website and bring in your expertise, bring in your voice. We want to hear it and we want you on board.
Do you have any like programs or something like for young women, especially like any?
Yeah, we are speaking to the Women's Earth Alliance, who are developing a training program, and we're hoping to roll that out with them in partnership with them, hopefully after COP, once we can focus on the next steps. But in the meantime, you could get in touch with the Women's Earth Alliance directly, or get in touch with us, and we'll take this further.
Great. I hope this will be heard out there, and a lot of people now will get in touch with you. Bianca, thank you very much for this conversation. That was really insightful and interesting to hear about your work and your initiative. And I'm really excited to see what's going to happen all the way up to November. If there will be some change, if there will be more women involved. So I got my fingers crossed, and I, of course, personally, I will also become engaged, or I'm engaged already.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the time to explain this, and your excellent question on this as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much also for all the people out there listening to us. If you want to get in touch with Bianca, feel free to check She Changes Climate online, or get in touch, of course, with ClimaTalk, and we can forward you to Bianca. Otherwise, stay tuned, because there will be more interviews coming up with Bianca's colleagues as well, talking more about diversity issues in international climate policies. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Bye.